guys, I am the short-term rental guy. I'm going to start off by telling you about all of the stuff I have going on currently, all the stuff that I'm passionate about. I'll go through my story and how I got there, and then I'll try to hit on a bunch of FAQs about short-term rentals that I've been hearing throughout the day to just catch you guys up to speed. So right now, I manage a full-service co-hosting company that manages over 100 Airbnbs and short-term rentals. Some of them being my own. I either own or am the general partner on 65 different properties. On top of that, I am the team leader for a team of real estate agents that are fully focused on short-term rentals. They run pro formas, they find properties, they help people catch up to speed and learn about short-term rentals. And then the last thing I do is I GP these deals. GP means general partner, so I'm the project manager on some larger syndication deals. One of the cooler ones I like to talk about is a 43-unit property that's across 11 acres. They were all renting for decades as long-term rentals, but it's an old resort. So what we're doing is we're going in, we're renovating all the units, flipping these little cabins and turning them into short-term rentals. And bringing the resort back to life. It's crazy to say these things because not long ago, about 5 years ago, I got into real estate. I was living with one of my friends. He was house hacking, so I was renting out his attic, just living in his attic. I was driving for Uber, and I realized I wanted to get into real estate. So I started. I put a house under contract when I only had $3,000 to my name. I needed $15,000 for the down payment, and what I ended up doing was I just took any job that I could to scratch up $12,000 in that 45 days before closing. It wasn't as scary as it sounds, and it wasn't scary for me at the time. I learned from that situation that I love putting myself in a back against the wall situation where if you set yourself up to achieve something and then you really don't have a choice but to figure it out, it really gets your brain turning in different ways. And I think a lot of the speakers have touched on that as well. And another thing that's helped me throughout my journey, which Blaze and Mike have talked about, is just putting yourself out there. So, I had no experience in real estate, and now I'm a lot farther than where I was, and a lot of that comes from just showing up to events like this, the same thing you guys are doing right now, and just telling people what you want to get into, networking with other investors doing the same, and really, I hate using the word manifesting, but putting it out there what you want to achieve so that you can put yourself and get your life situated in the right spot to achieve those results. So after I got my first house, before I even closed, I put a bunch of ads on Facebook Marketplace for roommates. And without being able to get in the house and tour these future potential roommates that I didn't know, I was able to land and get lucky with 3 roommates that ended up being awesome. And I switched my position from living in an attic and paying rent to now I cash flow $400 a month and live for free in a brand new construction house. So that was a huge step in my journey in being able to start the path to financial freedom. And probably the same for a lot of you guys out there. You want to get into real estate to get passive income. You want to be able to do more with your time and really choose when you can be with family, when you can travel. And for me, it's not like I ever hated working. I love working. I just wanted to be able to work when I wanted to, really work hard at something and buy my time back. And short-term rentals have really allowed me to do that. And short-term rentals are a great stream to get into because they're a passion project in a sense. You have people who are paying for reservations, paying for an experience, paying to stay at a place that you set up for the sole purpose of them having a good time and enjoying the spot that you have. So short-term rentals are a really good investment avenue if you guys are interested in creating an experience and getting a little more fun with interior design. You get to communicate with the guests, message them, and really put your own spin. You're basically starting a business, which makes it pretty cool. I got into it by accident. I was waiting for a friend of mine to move in, and he couldn't move in for 2 months. So I asked him, hey, will you rent the room furnished when you can move in? For now, I'll just throw it up on Airbnb. So that's what we did. I ended up making enough money just on that spare bedroom in my house to cover my entire mortgage, which jumped my cash flow up to $1,500 a month on that first property. And that's when like the light bulb went off. I realized that that was the time for me to start shifting into short-term rentals instead of trying to come up with a way to get multifamilies. I started buying more short-term rentals. I would basically move into a house, live in it for a year to satisfy the primary loan requirements, and then I would move to the next one and turn the old one into a short-term rental. It worked perfectly because you always have to furnish where you live anyway, and then I already had the furniture in the old one to move to the next one. I started making a lot more cash flow on each rental, $2,000, $3,000 a rental, enough to the point where I had enough income to replace my W-2 job. At that point, I was ready to quit, but I couldn't yet. It was COVID, and I was waiting on a builder to complete a house that I needed the W-2 to get the loan for. So I was waiting and waiting. The build ended up taking 18 months for this house that I was planning on moving into, pushed back from the original 6, which was really cool because I was able to get this house under contract with just a $5,000 deposit, and over that 18 months that it took to build, the market appreciated by over $100,000, which really helped with my leverage and being able to create more equity in the property. And then I finally, after I closed, got to quit my W-2 job and focus on real estate. That probably made the biggest impact on my life in the sense that when you work for someone else and you're putting your hours into your job, even if you're the best employee of all time, it's not the same as working for yourself. It's not the same as being able to chase something that you're passionate about. Nobody treats a business the same unless it's your own. So being able to get 40, 50, 60 hours a week back to focus on stuff that I wanted to do and work on really changed the trajectory of my life, and I'm excited for a lot of you guys out there to get to that point and with that much time back to see what you guys can achieve. So at that point, I started doing short-term rentals full-time. I became a real estate agent, and really I became an agent just to kind of get a better sense of the market, be able to use on my own purchases, and I had a lot of fun as a real estate agent. I still do it today, not nearly as often because I don't have as much time, but I find short-term rentals really cool. So every now and then I'll see a really cool cabin or something that I want to go check out, and I have the luxury of being able to do that. So once I became a full-time agent and started doing short-term rentals, and I was doing well with my first 6, I started managing for a couple of friends of mine, and at that point I was managing 10, and I realized like I either have to bring on help or I just put myself right back in the same position I was when I was working before, because I've now created a whole new job for myself in managing these short-term rentals. So I found a friend of mine who was very passionate and ready to help, and basically since that day, now 3 years ago, I've just been bringing people on the team to help manage these short-term rentals that really care about the vision and care about the guest experience. And that's really helped me create an ecosystem of contractors, cleaners, communications agents, all types of aspects of short-term rental, of people who really care about the experience. And it's allowed me to step back from being the one to do the messaging to having to go change the light bulbs or change out the air filters. So from that point, after I was managing 10 and started bringing on help, I continued in the process of managing for other people. I continued buying things. I started looking for properties that would be really cool, kind of those what ifs. And that's how we found the 43-unit resort that we're doing now. That first guy that I brought onto my team to manage short-term rentals, as I'm sure a lot of you guys do, he was hunting late night on Zillow and LoopNet and some of these websites, guilty pleasure of just checking out real estate, and he shows me this 43-unit property that's across 11 acres, and he was like, bro, like how cool would it be if we were to buy something like this someday? I was like, what do you mean someday? Let's put it under contract. So I learned why it was still on the market, and that's because it was impossible to get a hold of the broker who was selling it. The seller had fired them. The seller wasn't even interested in selling anymore. I was in Hawaii at the time, and this property is on the mainland. So I was like, I can't stop here. I think this could be a really cool opportunity. I ended up sending my brother to the property and just told him, look around everywhere and see, like, find a number that the tenants on the property contact when they need something. And we just kept calling the maintenance line until we were able to get a hold of the seller and eventually get the property, start negotiating with them and get the property under contract. That was a really cool experience in just kind of like driving through to the finish. But I kind of put myself in the same situation that I was in with that first house when I went in with not having the money. I only had $3,000 of the $15,000 I needed, except for this time, I only had $100,000 of the $1.5 million I needed to get it done. So you guys hear about PML, private money lending, and what I did for the next few months is I just told everyone I knew about the project and how excited I was about it, and I was very lucky to have even some people in this room pitch in and help get to the point where we had enough money to do the deal. We ended up closing on it, and we've been working on it for about a month now, and we're already through renovating 7 of the 28 units that we're going to be turning into short-term rentals. We have some listings live, and they're making more than we thought they were going to be making. And it's all thanks to the people who have pitched in on the deal. It's all thanks to that team of people that I built who make sure every guest has just a phenomenal experience. And we've already got all 5-star reviews across the board on this place. So it's been really cool to see kind of how the journey develops when you put yourself out there and you keep chasing things that you want to do. I'll pivot now into some myths about short-term rentals and things that are useful to keep in mind when you're going into a short-term rental property. It is a business. It is a hospitality business, and the more of them that you have, it's like running a hotel, except for the hotel rooms are in all different types of places. Unless you get very lucky and put several properties under contract that are right next to each other. But we all know how real estate is. The whole block doesn't go for sale up at one time. So you're running a hotel from all over the place. And short-term rentals are very different than long-term rentals. The urgency is 10 times more critical. If a tenant has a maintenance request, and some of the horror stories you guys hear is maybe you have like a leak or a toilet not working and your tenant's gonna call you in the middle of the night. I feel like that doesn't happen all that often, but regardless, they call you, they leave a voicemail, you get it fixed over the next week if you're a good landlord. In short-term rentals, people are staying for maybe 2 or 3 nights at a time. If you don't fix something within that first couple of hours, then you're risking 50 to 100% of their stay having an issue when they're just looking to have a good vacation. They're just looking to have a good experience in your place. So it's so much more important to keep the property in tip-top shape and make sure your team is doing that. Your cleaners are checking for things and having as many eyes on the property and getting things fixed as quickly as you can. With that being said, I don't want to scare you guys from short-term rentals. Although they're a lot of work, they're so much fun to manage. And because they are a business, that's why they make so much more cash flow. So when you're looking for a short-term rental, you really want to make sure it's in a market where people want to go to. I like to say, like, buy something that you would want to stay in. Like, if you could see you and your friends or you and your family staying in that house, then other people are probably going to pay to do the same thing. And there's a lot of different websites you can use to check out the data. I use Price Labs particularly. Some people use AirDNA, and it's very similar to long-term rental comps. So what you can do is you can go onto these websites and you can sort, say, for example, if 3 bedrooms in a certain market by their amount of revenue, and then from there you can go into the different amounts of revenue and just comp. Like if you see 3 properties that are making $75,000, $80,000, $85,000, you can go in and check and be like, okay, my house looks just like these 3 houses that are making that. My rental property will probably make $80,000. Then you can plug it into your spreadsheet just like you would with a long-term rental, just making sure you have the short-term rental expenses in there, and just, is $80,000 gross enough to make this property work? If yes, then you have a deal and you can move on it. A lot of times I see in short-term rentals, you can get 15 to 20% cash on cash, which is really cool. And I think the lifestyle that short-term rentals afford you is cool because unlike a long-term rental where you buy it, you put a tenant in there, and you probably don't ever really go back to it all that often yourself, with short-term rentals, you can go stay in it. And that's kind of the lifestyle that I have. I haven't lived in the same place for more than like 2 months at a time because I have properties all over the place and I just switch it up. I go live somewhere else, go stay in some of my different places. And I think that's one of the coolest perks of short-term rentals is you can kind of create a lifestyle that you can just move around and switch, and they're great investments when you're not living in them. Another thing I wanted to touch on was rental arbitrage, which is very popular. I think it's got a lot of hype. I would just discourage that. And the reason I don't like rental arbitrage is a lot of the reasons you get into real estate are for the tax benefits, the cash flows, and short-term rentals, like I said, are a lot of work. So if you get into arbitrage, you're losing the equity pay down, you're losing the appreciation. Yes, you don't have to pay a whole lot of money because you're just renting a place, but at the end of the day, you lose so many benefits and you have to do the same exact amount of work to manage an arbitrage as you do a house that you own, that it's just better to be a traditional homeowner and try to purchase property and keep scaling up your portfolio. I think that's all I have.